I mean, it's not often that I start a video by insulting you guys, but what the heck are you thinking here? The 2013 trailer? That was The Division. That is the master plan of all plans of any time ever. Now, many of you likely also saw this poll that I did about, are they working on Division 3? And of course, it's kind of a mixed bag of answers here, but the general consensus is that they are, but it's probably not going to be until after, Avatar and Star Wars. Now, talking about The Division 3, we know that The Division has become a huge franchise for Ubisoft, but that success is also the biggest reason it is kind of being put on the back burner right now. Massive's in-house game engine Snowdrop has basically become the powerhouse behind almost everything Ubisoft is working on currently, and this streamlined efficiency has made it easier for multiple studios to pump out games in faster times than was possible before, and of course to assist each other in making these games because they're all trying to use this same engine. Now, this engine was first used to showcase the original Division game. Because of that game has garnered a lot of interest from potential IP holders, looking to create some games with their properties. And Massive is now slated to release games for two huge movie franchises, obviously being Avatar and Star Wars. Either of which could become a veritable cash cow for the company on their own. I mean, look, Division's great, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Avatar and Star Wars are even bigger names. So, I mean, if you're looking at what a company's going to choose, it's kind of iffy. Do they go with their own in-house product, or do they try to go with something that has a little bit more name recognition? Now, with Massive and the Snowdrop engine being seen as pretty much the little darlings of the Ubisoft universe currently, the question many of us Division faithful are probably asking ourselves is, what is going to happen to the franchise that made all of this possible? Massive started work on the Snowdrop engine shortly after being acquired by Ubisoft in 2009, then quickly using it to power their ambitious new RPG, The Division. The Division development is stated to have begun in 2013, and then during the E3 of that year, they gave a glimpse of the vision and the world building that the team was actually hoping to create. Now, when they launched the game in 2016, it was a huge success, at least, as far as new IPs go in the video game world. Albeit, it was a bit of a black eye considering many of the issues that hounded the game's life. But after what was a bit of a rocky first year, the game was looking ready for some real progression and, expansion. Only for Division fans to be hit with an announcement in 2017 that Massive would be making a new game for the Avatar franchise. Of course, this was followed by the game's death sentence in a 2018 State of the Game.
On behalf of the team at Massive and the teams that are working on The Division worldwide, to exclusively announce to our community first that we're working on the sequel to The Division 2.
Not only was there an Avatar game now draining resources, but the team had almost immediately started work on a sequel right after Division 1 launched. To some Division 1 fans, a sequel was exciting, but to many others, myself included, it was kind of a punch in the gut. We put in a lot of effort, writing posts, commenting, trying to explain, what was wrong with the game, what needed fixing, to beg for content, right? And then The Division just largely felt abandoned through much of its second year. And honestly, with all the stuff that was going on, it was pretty clear why The Division was abandoned. They just had so many other projects that they were working on, and they didn't care about their original game. Going into the third year, it was clear that the great Division experiment had actually turned into a pump and dump live service charlatan. When The Division 2 launched in 2019, it was clear the developers wanted to portray an image of a fully realized live service game with an endgame first mentality. I mean, they stressed that numerous times, but much of the content that they actually tried drip feeding the player base really just kind of felt like original content that was held back or even cut out due to time constraints that they later, completed. And this left many players wondering how much of the production of Avatar and its planned 2020 release was actually hampering the Division franchise, and if this was going to be another abandonment of a Division game 1 year after launch. Behind the scenes, a new development was taking place. A short while after the Division 2's release, it was announced that 20th Century Fox had completed the sale of its media assets to Disney, making Disney the new owner of the Avatar IP. Then a few months later, it was announced the second Avatar movie was going to be delayed until 2022. and with it, the new Massive game as well. The start of 2020 and the Division 2's second year looked bright, actually. A large expansion was on its way, the studio was no longer faced with a looming release date for the Avatar game. In fact, it looked like the Division 2 was going to be a real priority for once, and not bobbled between multiple projects. However, this was far from the case. 2020 saw many of the Division devs suddenly missing from the state of the game, or new and less frequent faces making appearances. Then, once Warlords of New York officially launched, it became clear something else was going on at Massive. A new, unannounced project seemed to be underway. Was this the Division curse all over again? Pretend to care about the game for a year after launch and then suddenly vanish to work on a new game? Judging by what happened with the game since Warlords of New York and the lack of respect showed to, Fei Lao and just kind of the season content in general, it was pretty clear the Division had again become a false live service bait and switch. Then in 2021, something completely unexpected and yet not surprising was announced, and that was that Massive would be working on an upcoming Star Wars title. EA had owned exclusive publishing rights to the main platforms for Star Wars since 2013, and were not really set to expire until 2023, so this was a bit shocking, I guess, to some. But this meant that Massive was aiming for, something around a 2024 release date for this game. Unless, they worked some sort of behind-the-scenes deal with EA and Disney. And then also been secretly working on the Star Wars title for over a year. Now, if correct, this would have given Massive an almost 3-year development window for that game, similar to that of the previous Division titles. It would actually be revealed that shortly after the Disney buyout of Fox in 2019, a Disney exec had visited Malmo to view the progress of the Avatar game. Because of this meeting, the exec was actually so impressed by what he saw that he expressed desire to have Massive work on a new Star Wars game. So Division 1 was almost immediately hurt by the secret workings of a sequel and an Avatar game. Division 2 was under pressure from the original Avatar release date and then hit by the secret Star Wars project. As a fan of the games and as a person who wished the games got a chance to be a real live service, I gotta admit I'm kinda pissed. Call of Duty manages to release almost as much DLC as the Division does, but on a much tighter schedule and without calling themselves live service. So what the hell is the point of calling your game live service if you have no intention of actually developing content past that first year? Okay, so it seems like the future of the Division is on pause, right? Now, much of this is speculation, but the timing of things just seems a bit off. Considering that they're a giant, multinational conglomerate with Ubisoft there, you'd think that they would have a lot of their ducks in a row and they'd have a lot of things planned out for the future. And by this, after Division 1 was released, the team started working on Division 2. After Division 2 was released, the devs started working on, exactly, there is a bit of a gap in the project. While a few people did leave Massive during the Division's second year, I'm not really aware of any major reduction in manpower after the 2019 release. I also doubt that everyone who had been working on Division 2 suddenly shifted to Avatar. Remember, when Division 2 launched, Avatar was still slated for a 2020 release, meaning they should have already started production for the game to release on time. Then, after the delay, they suddenly had 2 additional years to work on that game, so you have a bunch of excess staff doing what for almost a year? Well, if the fate of D1 is a clue, I would say that shortly after the release of Division 2, pre-production probably began on the Division 3. Between May 2019 and February 2020, Avatar would have been delayed, and they would have known this, and Star Wars would probably not have even started yet. Massive has grown large enough to deal with multiple projects at once, considering before the Division they numbered near 150 employees, and now they have over 650. I would guess they can work on many things at once, and they are no stranger to using the other Ubisoft studios for assistance. So, assuming the current release date of the Avatar game being Q4 2022, to coincide with the December 2022 movie release, then assuming the same is planned for Star Wars and the upcoming December 2023 movie Rogue Squadron, it would seem that as of now, a 2024 release date for the third installment of The Division is possible. So what I think happened after the 2019 Division 2 release Well, they probably wanted to move into Division 3 production and finish up Avatar for the 2020 release. But then when Avatar got pushed to 2022, they wanted Division 3 to be ready by 2023. Then we had the Star Wars news, which probably pushed back the D3 plans, and again, because they wanted to release Star Wars in the same year as that new Star Wars movie. But now we're kind of left in a little conundrum here, because if they're continuing this trend, they want to release Avatar game with Avatar movie, they want to release Star Wars game with Star Wars movie. Might they want to release new Division game with Division movie? And the plans with the movie currently are to actually begin filming at the end of this year, so sometime in, I think, November or December of 2021. Now, if you consider that this filming is going to be based largely on Division 1, which means a snowy background for the most part, they have about 4 months of filming that they can actually do throughout different areas to try to get the scenes that they want. So most likely a lot of the actual filming will probably be wrapped up sometime February to early March of 2022. This means that it is entirely possible for a Division movie to be released at the end of 2022 or at the beginning of 2023. Now, since we don't actually know what kind of games Star Wars or Avatar are going to necessarily be, we don't know if they're going to be big MMO style games, if they're just going to be large, single player stories, if they're going to be highly detailed, RPGs, or if they're just going to be, shooters or action adventure. We don't necessarily know all the details on that. But if, for example, Avatar turned out to be a mostly, single player game with some co-op, and the same with Star Wars, it turned out to be something like, Knights of the Old Republic, a single player RPG type game, then it is entirely possible that they want to have another live service type game in the wings ready to go. So with the launch of Avatar in 2022, they're going to have a few months before, everyone leaves that game and starts the Division. Then Division is going to, release some content, but once that content kind of wraps up, they're going to have this Star Wars game ready to go. And possibly during, after that launch of the Star Wars game, they will then potentially develop more content for the Division 3 or whatever Division game they're working on. So basically constantly having this staggered release of activities that people can, basically keep interested in. Now, looking at the job posting for Massive, we can see that many of the positions for Avatar as of right now are mostly full production type work. And there's even some testing going on. They are most likely nearing this pre-alpha phase, So they've got a working prototype, they've got a lot of the components done, they're probably just putting some finishing touches on stuff like missions on the map, on character selection and development, that kind of stuff. And then moving into the Star Wars project, what we can see is the development is, as expected, behind Avatar. Given that the jobs are more focused on leadership positions, probably trying to build up the leadership so that they can then build up the teams, it would appear that the core concepts and ideas are already planned out, and they're basically just looking to start prototyping the game shortly, if they're not already doing so. And if that is in fact the case, we might even see a teaser trailer or a small bit of gameplay footage by the time E3 2022 rolls out. But then there's also another little project tucked away down here. Now, if to be honest, this looks like pretty much bare bones posting. I mean, they barely probably have any idea what they're even doing yet. And again, this is all speculation, but generally when you start a project, you're looking for concept artists, you're looking for people to generally start the back-end infrastructure of said game, and you're looking for people to kind of direct the project. So this kind of fits in with what they're looking for. They got the concept artist, they got the online programmer, site reliability engineer. I mean, a lot of those are not necessarily things that you're going to be doing after the game's well underway or towards the end of the project. You're going to start this stuff in the very beginning. So is it entirely possible that this is the signs of Division 3? It is. I mean, it could be, but again, it could also be an unnamed project, something that they haven't revealed yet, something that they are considering as a new IP for Massive. And honestly, it could be something as simple as just a mobile game. But again, looking at the job descriptions, online programmer, site reliability engineer, it definitely seems like this is going into the more, live service direction, something that's probably going to be always online. If that is, just the trend that Massive is working towards. That's what they're going to be doing all in the future. I mean, okay. But that's also what the Division is. So of course this could be just coincidence. It could be another game similar to the style of the Division. Of course they could also be working on a remastered version of Division 1 for new consoles. And then that way they wouldn't have to rewrite the entire book while also being able to capitalize on the new movie that will be coming out for the Division. But anyway guys, I admit it's a tough pill to swallow at this point. We're mostly very passionate community in regards to the Division, and just the current state of things is not making players happy. We want news for the Division to come out. We want this game to be amazing. We want something that actually shows us the potential of what the Division can be. And this is why I so drastically want that original 2013 trailer, because that to me is the epitome of what the Division should be. I mean, the giant map size, all the different activities, and just all the intricacies that we saw in there. Those intricacies didn't make it into Division 1. A lot of those things didn't even make it into Division 2. So I don't believe that Division 3 will necessarily be the game's, shining star. I don't believe that Division 3 is going to be the savior of the Division franchise. I think it could potentially be a good game, but I also think that it could potentially be another dumbing down of the ideas. We could potentially go from, Division 1 with a large detailed stat system and interest in, a fairly interesting design theory, to Division 2, which was kind of remedial and treated players largely like they didn't understand anything. So they just kind of made it easier, made it Barney style for people to just plug and play things. And then Division 3, worst case scenario, well, probably not worst case scenario, but we could easily see something like a de-evolution into Destiny 2, where there's not really much choice, and most of the stuff is kind of like gimmicky. So it doesn't even really matter that much in the large aspect of everything. Division 3 could potentially just be a Destiny 2 clone without jumping. So that would be a little bit annoying to me. I think that a lot of us like the Division because of that in-depth RPG and the customization and the gear building, whether you wanted to be a shooter person or whether you wanted to be a skill build or support build or tank build, whatever. We liked that customization. We liked that depth. And if they continue on that path with Division 3, then the Division is going to be rather uninteresting to me. But either way, thank you guys for watching. Comment down below what you think they're going to be doing. If any of this information kind of made you think about it in a different way. Maybe there's some information I missed that kind of points a light at something else. But thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.